We're 1 year away from Hampton Roads' first light rail system. Is construction on track? What about the plans for high-speed rail? Tonight, state and local transportation leaders bring us up to date. This is What Matters. Good evening, I'm Kathy Lewis. Tonight, a transportation status report. We're just about a year away from boarding the light rail trains, and tonight we'll find out whether we're still on track. We'll also get a progress report on rail service to Hampton Roads, conventional, higher speed, and high speed. Joining us, Hampton Roads Transit's president and CEO, Philip Chouquet, along with the director of the Virginia Department of Rail and Public Transportation, former Congresswoman Thelma Drake, although I think she likes this job better, the honorable and recently re-elected Norfolk Mayor Paul Frame, and the executive director of the Hampton Roads Planning District Commission and the Transportation Planning Organization, longest title in America, Dwight Farmer. Thanks to all of you for being with us tonight. Now, before we get started, there's a lot to talk about. Let's get a bit of history on how we got here, how the city of Norfolk paved this long, long road to light rail. It was October of 2005 before the Federal Transit Administration finally gave the light rail project a favorable rating of medium. The final design was accepted in September of the following year. In June of 2007, the TIDE became the official name of the light rail project, but it was not until October that a contract was in hand, calling on the FTA to fund more than 50% of the project, about $130 million.
3, 2, 1.
Harbor Park was the site of the groundbreaking in October 2008, and construction on the 7.4-mile-long track from EVMS to Newtown Road was off and running. First came the clearing of shrubs and trees along the tracks at Norfolk State University. Then the project moved into downtown. While most of the project utilizes existing track, in November of 2008, we saw the first piece of track that needed to be installed, embedded at a road crossing at Bristol Avenue.
The tide is in, y'all!
The first of the TIDE trains arrived in October of last year, but it wasn't long after that the project seemingly jumped track. In December 2009, reports of cost overruns showing the TIDE's $232 million price tag had escalated to about $340 million. The tide was turning on HRT President and CEO Michael Towns. Amid accusations of mismanagement, Towns was harshly criticized for not informing the HRT board or the city of Norfolk about the spiraling cost. In early January of 2010, Michael Towns stepped down as head of HRT, agreeing to retire from the company in September. In less than 30 days, Philip Chouquet was selected as the new president and CEO of HRT. Chouquet was chosen by Governor Mark Warner to revamp the Virginia Department of Transportation during Governor Warner's administration. Later that month, the Kern Library was demolished to make way for the new light rail station. On February 1, 2010, Philip Chouquet took the reins, calling for an end to unnecessary spending at Hampton Roads Transit, calling for an independent investigation into cost overruns, and cutting out expenditures like personal use of company cars and free family health insurance. 2 weeks later, Chouquet announced that the final cost to complete the project will be $338 million, and that the project will finish on time and that service will begin in May of 2011. So that's a little bit of how we got here, and boy, I'll tell you, exciting times. Philip Chouquet, yeah. Welcome back. I don't think we've had you back since you've been in this new position, perhaps.
I don't believe so.
I think it was right before you stepped into this new position. So give us an update. Where are we, and are we still on target to complete the deadline that you pretty strongly committed to?
Absolutely. We're on target to meet or beat our cost to complete and to be open for revenue service in May 2011. So we don't have a year anymore.
Yeah, you really don't. I gave you a couple extra days.
A couple extra days.
That's right. That's right. Now,
we're doing well.
As a practical matter, I think a lot of people have been in downtown. It was certainly well advertised that it was going to be complicated in downtown for a little while. Take us over the next couple of months and tell us what we can expect to see downtown in terms of congestion, that sort of thing.
To what I'm sure is good news for downtown, over the next couple of months you can see it's gone. The civil works, the actual construction of the track through downtown, will absolutely be finished no later than July 17th. And I'm very pleased to report that our contractors are on schedule to get their early completion bonus, which is June 17th. So we could be out in a matter of weeks with the actual track work. You'll still see folks downtown erecting the poles for the overhead catenary system and work like that. But the major disruptions and the street closures, with the exception of some intermittent ones here and there, will be gone. And I know that'll be welcome news for the businesses downtown.
Yeah, indeed. You had some real employment cultural challenges when you went into Hampton Roads Transit. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
How are you dealing with shifting the culture in the organization?
Well, I think we've dealt with it primarily through telling folks that, telling the truth is a requirement, and not only is it really the easiest thing to do, but it makes you feel pretty good when you just lay it out for everyone to see. And I'm very proud of our folks in that regard. Just about 3 weeks ago, we turned on our own dashboard, our HRT dashboard. So the construction project is out there, on-time performance is out there.
And this dashboard is something you implemented at VDOT that has gotten some really high marks from the public in terms of being able to access it and look at it and see where they are on the project. One of the great challenges on the other side of this, Mayor Paul Frame, as you know, has been the issue of the fact that the city is responsible for the cost overruns. I know you both have been working together to try to figure out where to get some of that money.
Well, we fully expect Philip to bring the project in well under budget, millions of dollars under budget. That will save us some money. There are several ways that we, are several pots that we are looking for. Phil and I went to see Peter Rogoff at the FTA. We have good reason to believe that they should contribute to a greater degree. They had some oversight responsibility here, and we've talked with Mr. Rogoff, had a good meeting with him. We haven't heard yet, but we do think they're going to lend us some assistance. Outside of that, we have our congressional delegation, which is, we hope we can get a federal earmark for some additional funds there. And then the city, of course, is the bank of last resort in this project. But there are some monies at the regional transportation district, which could help us, and hopefully over at HRT they've got some additional funds that they could contribute.
One of the things that was a great criticism at the time that all this happened, and I think you talked about this as well, was the requirement that the local transit agency supervise this project. And you're concerned, and I think others concerned, that there was not the experience base there really to do a project of this nature, that was not the smartest place to put the oversight management responsibility. Do you have the sense that they have heard you at the federal government about the implications of a decision like that?
I hope so. This is their standard operating procedure, though, across the country. The Regional Transit Authority is the agency that they look to construct a regional, a network of transit, of light rail, for instance. But we did run into a number of problems, and HRT here tried to construct a process where they brought in consultants to build the light rail system. They didn't have anybody there at the time who'd ever done anything like this. They paid a number of consultants who would come in here, spend 3 or 4 days a week here, and then go home. No one had any real skin in the game over there at HRT. And they had a number of different people come and go during the process. And even at the federal, the FTA level, they had, I think, at least 4 folks assigned, project managers assigned to this process. So it clearly got away from folks. It took them months just to figure out, how much over budget they were. And now with Philip's help and some really good people at HRT who've really stepped up, I think we have it now back under control. As Phil said, we all are invested in the truth. We want to know, where we are at any moment in time, and that's what they can tell us.
You can deal with the truth. I mean, you can. You just have to kind of know what it is, right? You've often said, Dwight Farmer, that downtown is going to be very different on the other side of light rail.
Absolutely. It's going to change what we look like, how we work, probably how we recreate, our personal business patterns. I think it's the beginning of a new way of doing business. And I'm hopeful that this will just be the beginning, and that with Mayor Frame and Mayor Sessom's working together, the logical extension obviously is to the economic centers in Virginia Beach. I think those are low-hanging fruit, waiting to be picked. And I think that the two together will create just a brand new image in a brand new place for Hampton Roads.
That's pretty exciting. Now, you have, one of the things that you've been very engaged in is trying to engage the public in the future of transportation planning and all the rest of it. Big hearing coming up, a big
June
public
2nd?
On June 2nd.
There's going to be a 6-year plan or 6-year program of how we're going to spend money on transportation for the next 6 years.
But there isn't any money, right?
Well, there's money. There's not near as much as we'd like to
Right.
have for a lot of projects, but very important to get the public out, make comments, talk to VDOT, talk to DRPT,
Right.
Thelma and her folks, express what our priorities are, and be heard. You can't sit home on this.
Boy, I tell you, somebody who's not sat home is Thelma Drake. She's been in Richmond and all over the Commonwealth working with the Department of Rail and Public Transportation, which she leads. Nice to have you back with us today.
Kathy, always good to be with you.
I enjoy your enthusiasm about this job, and you've really made a lot of progress in it in a short period of time. Last time we talked, you said at the very end of the show, you were kind of looking into this idea of the prospect of conventional rail between Norfolk and Petersburg, and boy, lots has happened.
The last time we talked, we were right on the brink of a really great achievement in this, and that is that we had a budget amendment that had been put into the General Assembly to allow us to use our rail enhancement funds for this Norfolk project as 100% money. So we didn't talk about it because it was too soon,
right, yeah.
and but that happened, and so we are moving ahead, and with the way our funding is laid out, it'll be within a 3-year time period that this should be up and running.
So we'll be riding trains possibly within 3 years.
Within 3 years is our goal. We do have the proposal from Norfolk Southern. We have worked with CSX because this is also joined to their track, to, just south of Petersburg, and then goes on into Richmond. And this train that goes out of Norfolk will it will overnight in Norfolk, leave from Norfolk, and you can go all the way to Boston on this train in the same seat. So it's very exciting. And we were just afraid to talk about it in that last time that I was here. So that's big news for the budget amendment. And so things are moving ahead, and really due to the partnership with Norfolk Southern and with CSX.
I tell you, I remember at that time you were really surprised by the number of people who turned out for these hearings in this area.
We used that
hearings,
picture all the time because there were over 1,000 people. They were standing. There were no seats. We went to North Carolina recently, the Secretary and I, to meet with the Secretary in North Carolina and their rail folks. And we always pull that picture out, and everyone says, "What is this?" So you did a really great job, all of you, in
That really was a
bringing people
remarkable
out.
moment, wasn't it?
Sort of
very
a watershed,
remarkable
moment. We had people there from all over the region.
Right.
The business community did a great job of trying to get their folks out, but also the civic community, and people came from everywhere to talk about
And
rail.
they were united. They weren't disjointed in this. They were united.
Everybody was on message. Everybody was making the right points. It was really quite a moment.
That has meant a lot to the Federal Railroad Administration, too. We've met with them on a few different occasions, and that really meant a lot to see.
Yeah, I thought the interesting thing was the diversity of that group. You know, you had you had the traditional business leaders you think of, and then you had some new players on the scene, and it was really an interesting,
very young,
very young people.
came.
Yeah, they really
it really was, and I really can't overstate the difference that Thelma has made in this process. I like to think light rail helped leverage this, because light rail and passenger rail will come together at a very special place there at Harbor Park. But Thelma really went out and found the money that none of us that even knew existed in this rail enhancement fund for this project, and the notion that passenger rail could be here within 3 years. It will change this. It will change the face of way.
If I had the money quicker, but
well, but I mean, Dwight will
3 years.
tell you what a difference this will make to this region, and to bring passenger rail to the south side. They've had some passenger rail on the peninsula. To get it here, to link it with light rail with a true transit system, where you could get on up in D.C., get on a train and come down here, and then get on light rail and go out to the beach, and then in the evening go home. I mean, and not have to get in your car. it's really a remarkable
And
moment.
it'll make a difference for the military, too, because so often they don't have
Oh,
advance
sure.
notice for a plane ticket to go
Right.
to Washington. They could get on that train in the morning, come back in the afternoon.
I think it could be some very interesting implications for living patterns too, because now you are making it reasonable for people to be able to work in other
Right.
areas of the state, and that really hasn't been possible before. Wouldn't it be something if we had the train here before the Midtown project is finished? I'm just saying, what's going on with the Midtown project?
Yeah, you will have a train here before the Midtown Tunnel, the expansion is finished. It's moving in the right direction. It's just taking longer than we thought. I mean, everyone understands that it's a priority. If you talk to, it's a public-private partnership, and when you talk to the private part of the partnership, they say the public part is slowing them down, and then when you talk to the public part, you get a different story. It's been a very negotiated process. You know, like everybody, I wish it would move more quickly. Some months ago, I thought we could go to construction in maybe 14 or 16 months. I'm told this week it might take 22 months. It's just getting further away. The good news is it looks like people are starting to form a consensus around $1.50 as a toll, which would be reasonable as a base. And as long as it stays there, then I think we're okay. If it starts getting higher than that, you know, the Commonwealth will have to put some money into the deal for sure. But if it stays at $1.50, I think you'll find real public acceptance.
Right now, it's something on the order of $2.17 in the non-peak times and $2.89 in the peak times. Talking about for cars now,
but that's without any contribution from the Commonwealth for the Midtown to help buy down the cost. And it's also, that includes the cost of the O&M, operation and maintenance of the Midtown. And if VDOT were to assume their traditional role of operating and maintaining these facilities, then the toll could be more like $1.50. I
know that you're here on behalf of HRT Philip Chiquette, but I can't help but note that you've had some experience with these kinds of projects before,
right.
You know, in your recent past. What's the issue here? What can we do to get this thing moved along? A lot of folks have been looking at this project for a long time, and as you just heard Mayor Frame say, you know, the public says it's the private says it's the public.
Well, first of all, you got to dispense with that and get the right people in the room and bring a laser focus to the project, and I think I think that's being done. I really do. Make it clear that it's a priority, and I'm a fan of deadlines. You know, without a deadline, things take longer. That's right. With a schedule, people change schedules. Deadlines, people meet them, and I think that would be probably welcome on both sides, to be quite honest.
I guess I have a wonder about this from the standpoint of the impact of seeing all those people in the room when we were talking about high-speed rail. You know, is there a public piece of this, Dwight Farmer, where the people can say, look, you know, it's time. Let's move on with this.
Well, I think it's been said over and over again. It is time. The Midtown Tunnel, and Mayor Freeman and I have talked about this a number of times, this project should have been delivered 10 years ago. I mean, in terms of when it was needed to satisfy the demand. So the communities have suffered, businesses have suffered, the city has suffered for 10 years.
The day it opens, it will be at capacity.
Yes.
It will.
Yes, it will.
Pent-up demand.
Wow.
Right.
Yes. It's the most heavily traveled two-lane road east of the Mississippi. But the day it opens with the expansion, it'll be at capacity.
Folks avoid that now because of the 2-mile backup, the 1.5 mile backup.
And so what do you say to the folks who say, look, the telecommuting is changing things, people are working more from home, we'll have all this great rail service, maybe we don't need as many roads and as many connections. You still need the Midtown Tunnel, though, don't you?
Yes.
I mean, you have to have that.
Absolutely.
Yes, you do. Just reaching back to the Jordan Bridge just for a quick minute.
Right.
When the Midtown Tunnel is expanded, the improvements are made at the downtown tunnel, the Jordan Bridge is built, Gilmerton construction is finished, and with a new high-rise bridge, there's an 80,000 trip a day shortfall across the Elizabeth River in terms of the demand that wants to make that trip. So there's no shortage of people that want to cross the Elizabeth River and the southern branch of the Elizabeth River. And to the folks who may say, gee, we can't always be building a road or a bridge, I would say this is one we need to build. There's a tremendous demand. This is catch-up.
This is catch-up.
And what people realize today is that they need everything. You know, it's
Exactly.
not just
I
roads
agree.
anymore. And it hasn't
Absolutely.
been that long that it
Absolutely.
was all roads. And DRPT, Kathy, you may not know this, we do the private sector telework for the Commonwealth.
you had told me
We
that,
have
yeah.
the highest number of teleworkers in the nation. And in the Hampton Roads region, as well as Richmond and Northern Virginia, we actually have funding. 100% money for businesses, for technology, as well as expertise to go in and help them work with, will this work for their business and what should the model be? So any of your viewers, we would love to
point.
talk to them. We're going to do a Hampton Roads Telework Day this summer, so
Oh, great.
be watching for that and to really bring it into our area as well, because it's a congestion reduction measure, but we need it all.
Yeah.
And people can get money for that.
Yes,
you can give them
there's
up to
money.
$35,000.
$35,000.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, I know there are a number of companies who've gotten on board with this, but I want to say, I think it's Canon that has a 30% goal, that they'll have 30% of their folks telecommuting here pretty quickly. It could make a dramatic, it could make a dramatic
can work
difference.
in a lot of
but what you're
businesses.
saying is not enough of a difference to say we don't need the Midtown Tunnel, we don't need all the other
Thelma's
structures.
exactly
that we
right. You
contemplate.
need to look at all of the resources at your command and use them.
Plus, Kathy, population growth
Yeah.
alone. I mean, even if you did all of these things, you're still going to have to build roads.
So as we think about those roads, you know, there was a time when we talked about the 6 projects, and there's a time when we then introduced the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel into the conversation. Where are we with all of that, Dwight? And then the brakes got put on because good job, keep planning, but no money.
I told the Transportation Planning Organization Board yesterday, the countdown is beginning, 12 months. We are going to have to focus on our priorities by the summer of 2011. We have a prioritization tool that is about to be put in place that will objectively and some subjectivity evaluate projects for their bang for the buck, their utility, whether we have funding for it, and what does it do for the economy in the region. And we're going to bring all of those measures together and place them in front of the board and the leadership. And we're going to set our priorities, and we're going to do it in a fiscally constrained environment. And the public is invited to participate.
And you've already been doing some focus groups.
Absolutely. We've done 6 of those around the region, very intense, several hours each, to try to drill down to find out, you know, what they understand, what they accept.
And you
what they
found that
don't.
people don't really understand a lot about, and really, I mean, who would, unless you're in this all the time, about transportation funding. They really don't kind of get that.
You know, maybe there are a few people who understand what $1 billion is or $500 million, and it's very difficult when we toss those numbers around. But when you tell folks how much does it cost each time you step out your door, then folks get to understand the impact on them, and they have a lot to say about that, and we need to be listening before we set our priorities. So we had good information. It's planning, but it's good information to understand that hurdle. I think Mayor Frame said it best many years ago. To do these kind of things in a grand way requires grassroots. I think he was the first one to say that, and I think it is so true today.
Every time we have stepped out in transportation without the grassroots, it has not gone well.
No.
Yeah, fair enough.
Sure.
Yeah, I want to thank all of you for being with us tonight. What an interesting conversation. We'll come back to it in the months ahead, and we'll get you all back together and see where we are, see if we're still, I'm going to say it, on track. You can't get away from it. You just can't. I'm sorry. I apologize for that. I'll be back in a moment with a final thought. You know, it's just a little awkward to talk about Philip Chouquette's paycheck with him sitting right here on the set and all, but here goes. The man makes $40,000 a month. Now, some of you just fell off your chairs. Others of you are trying to figure out how you missed the fact that HRT had apparently moved to Wall Street. And still others of you are saying you get what you pay for. Here's my take. Professionals are paid for results. The HRT board had a mess on its hands, a project drowning in red ink, no confidence in its leader, a political knife to its neck from Virginia Beach that understandably looked at the results and said, we're not signing on for anything until there's a change at the top. Light Rail was looking at a permanent terminus at the thriving night spot that is not Newtown Road until there was someone at the helm who had a demonstrated track record for results and a public reputation that would take people's confidence off life support. Economics, we are told, is about supply and demand. There was a powerful and painful demand for proven and trusted leadership, and Philip Chouquette had the unique combination of ability and relationships to supply it. Chouquette explained that he would save HRT many times his salary in cleaning up that mess that was left behind, and he's doing that, saving, admittedly by his own count, more than $14 million in contracts and consultants to date. Philip Chouquette held all the cards, and he played them very well. In fact, I'm ready to ask him to be my agent. But it's the HRT board that agreed to his salary, so it's the HRT board that's responsible and accountable. We may all be created equal, but we're certainly not all the same. And when the job calls for a unique set of talents and skills, the best thing to do is to make the best deal you can for the right person. And in this case, if history is any indicator, it'll be money well spent. You can watch any of our programs online at any time at whatmatters.tv. While you're there, tell us what you think and sign up for our weekly newsletter so we can let you know what we're working on as soon as we know what we're working on. For more local talk, I hope you'll join us on the radio dial for Hearsay on 89.5 WHRV. That's where this year we just might move this transportation conversation beyond the same conversation we've had for 15 years. We will take your calls there. Thanks again for watching. I'm Kathy Lewis. We'll see you next time for another look at What Matters.